Good morning to everybody from the Weinberg community out there watching this ceremony. The chairman of our governing body, Mr. Edries Burton, extends his apology for not being able to attend today, and he's asked me to welcome you to this rather unique ceremony on his behalf. So, welcome to the 2020 Founders Day ceremony, the first, and I certainly hope the last, virtual ceremony of its kind. Today we gather to pay tribute to all those members of the extended Weinberg community who over the past 179 years have contributed to make the Weinberg Boys' Schools what they are today. No matter how large or seemingly insignificant their contribution has been, they have all played their part, and thus they are all part of the heritage of these two great schools. We also gather to remember those brave Weinberg men who paid the ultimate price in the armed conflicts of the 20th century. They fought to protect their families and countrymen in what they believed they were fighting for: personal freedom and democracy against an evil enemy. They responded to the crisis and were prepared to, and in fact did, pay the ultimate price. Today, no one will argue that we are in another grave crisis. And I want to make it very clear that I'm not speaking about the so-called COVID-19 pandemic only. Whilst that might be a serious threat, every thinking person must realize by now that the global crisis we face is about far more than a virus. I'm speaking about the abuse of power, maladministration, corruption, graft, bribery, nepotism, and organized crime, to mention but a few. And these are taking place on a national and indeed a global scale. There can be little doubt that many heinous crimes against humanity are being committed right as we speak now under the guise of the so-called anti-COVID measures, not only in this country, but across the world. On the 6th of August, in an interview with ENCA, former member of the Cabinet and Finance Minister Trevor Manuel spoke on this topic. He said, and I quote, "We need to stop the rot right now. How does an individual," and by the way, he's talking about a government official here, "how does an individual walk into a car dealership and buy 5 cars in one day? 1 a Lamborghini and 2 Porsches. Why does our society tolerate this? Why do we sell our people down the river?" Although Manuel is referring to a particular political party in South Africa in the interview, this immoral behavior is not limited to a single political party, a particular country, or a specific sector. It occurs in governments, finance sector, commerce, service organizations, and even religious organizations. In the interview, Manuel goes on to say, "Society cannot be built on this basis. Let's not pretend that we do not notice the rot." If ever there was a call to action, this is it. Now, perhaps more than ever, it is the time for everybody in the Weinberg community to stand up and make our voices heard. Just as those young men who we're remembering today stepped forward to defend personal freedom and democracy, the same has been asked of us. Only this time, there is no excuse. You do not have to be of a particular age, a particular gender, a race, or a particular religious persuasion to enlist for this battle. Everybody can participate, regardless of who you are, and the sacrifice does not have to be that great. But how can we answer this call? Here are a few simple ways in which I believe you can do it. Firstly, don't be acquiescent. Ask questions and speak out. South Africans are very reluctant to do that. Whether it's your bank, a public representative, your doctor, or a service provider, do not take things at face value. Ask questions and read the fine print. Secondly, you can check your facts before you comment on anything. Do not believe everything you read or hear in the media. Challenge or expose members of the media who spread fake news or inaccurate news. And remember that censorship is widespread, even today. Read the labels and inserts on the products you buy. Check who is tracking you on your phone and through your network. Be an active citizen. Take interest in the causes that are close to your heart and join groups who fight for these causes. Where you see or become aware of illegal or suspicious activity, speak up. Of course, if you feel called to take more drastic action, I encourage you to follow your instinct and be assured that you will go with our blessing and best wishes. I'd like to conclude with words from the chairman of our Old Boys Union, Matt Thompson, which he put in a recent a newsletter that he sent to the Old Boys. He said, "While we lament the burden and difficulty thrust upon us by living in the time of the coronavirus, we take great confidence in our ability to endure in spite of the challenges we have faced. 179 years of adversity, war, change, revolution, and toil have failed to break the spirit, faith, and resolve of the Wynberg community. This is but the latest in a series of challenges which we will overcome." He goes on to say, "Our reaction to the crisis at hand continues to fill me with confidence, knowing that we will overcome the challenges before us." And then just finally, undoubtedly the year ahead is going to be extremely challenging. May God bless us all. Supera Moras.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 44. Let us now praise men of renown and our fathers in their generation. The Lord hath wrought great glory through his magnificence from the beginning. Such as have borne rule in their dominions, men of great power, and endured with their wisdom, shewing forth in the prophets the dignity of prophets, and ruling over the present people, and by the strength of wisdom instructing the people in most holy words. Such as by their skill sought out musical tunes and published canticles of the Scriptures. Rich men in virtue, studying beautifulness, living at peace in their houses. All these have gained glory in their generations, and were praised in their days. They that were born of them have left a name behind them, that their praises might be related. And there are some, of whom there is no memorial, who are perished as if they had never been, and are become as if they had never been born, and their children with them. But these were men of mercy, whose godly deeds have not failed. Good things continue with their seed. Their posterity are a holy inheritance, and their seed hath stood in the covenants. And their children, for their sakes, remain forever. Their seed and their glory shall not be forsaken. Their bodies are buried in peace, and their name liveth unto generation and generation. Let the people shew forth their wisdom, and the church declare their praise.
God bless Africa, for she is the seed of humanity, and I am the future through her. When her roots sprout, I am born, and as the leaves unfurl, I grow. When her branches spread, I learn, and as the flowers bud, I bloom. God bless Africa, for she is the fire of creation, and I am transformed through her. When problems loom, I am challenged, and when solutions hide, I search. When suffering strikes, I ache, and when relief calls, I answer. God bless Africa, for she is the tree of life, and I am alive through her. When her roots are dry, I thirst, and when her trunk is cut, I bleed. As the seasons turn, I change, and as the fruits ripen, I flourish.
Now is the time of the year when the members of Wynberg Boys High School pause to remember the old boys of the school whose headstones are scattered in military cemeteries in distant lands. It is gratifying to know that they have not receded into the faceless anonymity of the distant past. Please close your eyes or bow your heads while I give thanks for their lives. O God, help us to remember all of the old boys of the school who have given their lives in times of war so that we may live in peace and enjoy our lives. Grant that we may be worthy of their sacrifice. We give you thanks for their lives, for their example, and for their courage. O God, who gives us so much, give us one more thing, a grateful heart for the sacrifices of those who did not return. Grant that the boys of this school may live out there today and that their lives will enhance our tomorrow. Amen.
The Roll of Honor. In memory of former pupils of Wynberg Boys High School who fell in wartime conflict. The inscription reads, "At morning and evening we shall remember them." World War I, 1914 to 1918. J.B. Abrams, E.J. Brody, A.K. Carstens, W.A. Carstens, B. Cohen, G.T. Cornwall, R. Duncan, C.H. Eliot, D. Eliot, E. Eliot, T.A. Philby, W.J. Fish, M.S. Fox, H.T. Garrett, C.L. Giddy, C.C. Gordon, R.L. Graham, E.M. Greenwood, H.L. Harcourt, E.W. Hitchcock, C.E. Horn, K.T. Howard, J.C. Hurlin, D.B. Hudson, N. Keppel-Jones, C. Loxton, C.R. Lucas, J.R. Martin, J.H. McKnight, E.J. Mills, W.H. Milner, G.V. Noakes, J.E. Poole, E.G. Powell, W. Prince, C.H. Sowerman, R.O. Schwartz, G.G. Scott, S. Scott, R.R. Short, W. Solomon, W.I. Thompson, C.A. Vippen, J.E. Waters. Rand Rebellion, 1922, W.A. Kirsten. World War II, 1939 to 1945, E.C. Adams, A.J. Bates, R. Beckwith, R.B. Bell, C. Boucher, J.F.L. Bernard, G.S. Cartwright, G.F. Cutting, R. Daniels, J.S. Dalbridge, I. Difford, A. Dubber, A. Earp Jones, C. A. Friedlander, J. G. Graham, A. Haft, K. Jacobs, H. A. Job, G. Josephson, A. Kahn, N. Cog, L. Corpate, D. McIntyre, G. B. Macmillan, H. Miller, L. F. Moorman, J. S. Parsons, I. L. Posner, J. Ritchie, F. Scrimger, Hugh Scrimger, J. Setscorn, R. Stavani, D. Tattersall, J. Tom, J. H. Thwaites, S. M. Upton, E. Van Schade, P. Vervat, B. Watson Smith, C. Wheeler, W. R. White, N. F. Wilkinson, D. Williams. Our dedication to all Weinberg generations. Weinberg Boys Junior School and high schools acknowledge all Weinberg families, including the families of Weinberg boys who have attended Weinberg after the opening of the school, to all from 1991 onwards, who have been affected by loss of life, injury, and exile during the years of conflict and the liberation struggle to end apartheid in Southern Africa.
We, the young men, the staff, and community of Weinberg Boys High School, respect and respect and honor the inherent dignity of every human being and cherish all forms of life on this planet. To that end, we pledge this code of nonviolence. Where there is injustice of any form, we pledge to right it with justice, without violence. Where there is hatred, intolerance, or discrimination, we pledge to work for acceptance and harmony. Where there is abuse of women, children, or anyone unable to speak out, we pledge to give them a voice. Where there is bullying or intimidation, we pledge to expose and curtail it. Where there is warfare, fighting, and civil disruption, we pledge to work for diplomacy and negotiation. We pledge to make this school and its environs a place of safety, security, and peace, and we pledge that all who represent the school are ambassadors of this code.
This Founders Day will be remembered for the way in which it is so different to all others, for many different reasons, but one of them is that today we have two speakers addressing us for the John McNaughton address. I will introduce them both and they will speak one after the other. In 1997, Bruce Probyn appointed a new Afrikaans teacher who came with a broad teaching experience in both history and Afrikaans. Rodney Inglis soon became an indispensable part of Wynberg and added value to the school in ways we had not even thought of at the time. Wynberg, like the rest of South Africa, was welcoming in a new era. The late Mr. Mandela was in the middle of his term of presidency, and every facet of South African life was undergoing momentous change. Education was turned on its head, and subjects like history in particular underwent a metamorphosis. Rodney was ideally placed to give substance to the new curriculum. I remember how Cully Pretorius and Rodney shared the teaching of history in a grade 9 class, explaining to our mixed multitude how the different sectors of people experienced life in the old South Africa. Each was able to paint a vivid picture of what life was like to those who benefited and to those who suffered under apartheid. Rodney was very involved in the melding together of the different clubs and schools of Western Province cricket after 1994. He was actively involved in building bridges and helped to bring communities together. He has an amazing ability to see life from somebody else's viewpoint and is able to bring people together who hold disparate views. He's a genuine people's person and seems to know everybody in Cape Town. Rodney has placed his stamp on many areas of Wynberg life. Apart from his teaching duties, he's worked on creating the school timetable, coached hockey and first-team cricket, been a tutor and then a househead, and ended up finally as a vice principal running the service portfolio. Rodney has spent almost a quarter of a century at Wynberg and will be fondly remembered by many Wynberg men. He always sees the bright side of life and remains positive in spite of some serious physical ailments through which he has suffered. There is no one more affable that I would want to have with me on a sports tour, as he has a wonderful way of making everyone feel at home, no matter where they are. Rodney has seen firsthand the changes that Wynberg has been through as we have moved into the new South Africa, and it is only fitting that he addresses us today on his final Founders Day as a member of staff. Our second speaker, in 2007, a young, enthusiastic science and maths teacher joined the Wynberg staff. He was an instant success. Ben Thompson threw himself headlong into everything that Wynberg had to offer and became immersed in the school life, from teaching science, maths, and technology to running a tutor group, heading up sports teams, and doing outdoor hiking trails. He embraced the Wynberg culture. 14 years later, it is true to say that he has had a significant impact on the way Wynberg has progressed. Much of the modernization of the school is because of his initiatives. He's been at the forefront of the digital revolution regarding education, believing that we need to prepare our boys for the real world where the use of electronic devices is ubiquitous. He has strengthened our recruitment process, actively seeking to appoint staff who are representative of the whole of South Africa. He ensured that we became a training ground for teachers by implementing an intern program. He expanded our academic offerings by allowing boys to do an extra subject through to Matric. And the engineering design building currently being built will be his legacy as he wisely advocated and drove the vision for this project. Ben is a true supporter of Wynberg boys. He's often seen down at the JK Oval, keenly watching our cricketers for an hour or two. Afternoons see him on the Silverhurst fields, chatting to boys as they are put through their paces by the athletics and rugby coaches. And every Saturday, he is here diligently watching our sportsmen craft masterpieces on the green canvas of the Wynberg fields. Although Ben is truly an international man, he has embraced Wynberg and indeed South Africa as his home. In fact, his only faux pas was when he wore a white rugby jersey to school one particular Friday in November last year. Everything else he has done has been through his own personal sacrifice to make life better or easier for others, and he has sought to make Wynberg and South Africa a better place. I can think of no one better to speak to us on this Founders Day than Ben Thompson.
Mr. Duval, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen and young men out there. I'd like to start off by thanking the Headmaster and school management team of Wynberg for affording me the honor of addressing you today and reflecting on my time at Wynberg Boys High School. Mr. Proven, who was headmaster at the time when I arrived at Wynberg, wrote in that year's magazine, "I think the greatest compliment I could pay the boys, the parents, and the school is to tell you that not a single teacher wanted to take the severance package offered by the department. I, on the other hand, had a different view. I was incensed with the education department's rationalization policies of 1996, in which they had put the livelihood of many young teachers at risk, and opted to take the voluntary severance package, swearing that I would never return to teaching. Boy, was I wrong. After doing what I thought was my duty and assisting the new team at my old school on their way, I soon found myself waking up in the morning, wondering what the devil I was going to do with the rest of the day. That is until I received a call from Mr. Proben offering me a teaching post at Wynberg. I had long been in awe of the school, having spent almost every Friday over the previous 5 summers as a regional cricket coach at the Silver's Nets. The friendliness and outstanding manners of the boys had already made an indelible impression on me. The absolutely fantastic view of the mountain and the grand facilities really appealed to me. But it also deep down filled me with anger because these white folks really had everything. So when I received the offer from Mr. Proven, I was torn. I did not accept immediately. My girls had just started at the local high school, and as an immediate past leader of that local teachers forum, I felt that I would be unfaithful to those teachers who continue to toil under difficult circumstances to provide our teachers with the best education possible. I know how many of them made personal sacrifices, both financially, where teachers would often have to use their own resources to purchase duplicating paper materials for charts, etc., as well as time away from their families. And here I was contemplating moving across to the rich, privileged white school. I thought about it for a long time, and eventually I only had 2 choices: accept the offer from Wynberg or wait for a possible response from job applications in the private sector that I had made, and risk twiddling my thumbs for the next who knows how long, how many months. I eventually accepted at the 11th hour and started the 3rd term of 1997 a couple of days later. It just so happens that I was replacing an old stalwart who would eventually return to the school as principal, Mr. Jan de Waal, who had become headmaster at Simonstown. So what has been my experience at Wynberg Boys High School since my arrival 23 years ago? I've been pondering the highlights of my stay at the school and spent a few hours browsing the pages of the school magazines of the last 20-odd years. I realized that the task of highlighting or putting down every highlight of my stay at Wynberg would be an impossible task. My colleague, Mr. Hull, the man tasked with quality assurance, amongst other things, currently, is often heard using terms such as world-class school and center of excellence and words similar to that. We are committed to excellence in every sphere of our school. In fact, we are incapable of doing anything in half measures. On the sports front, we continue to dominate locally and in virtually all sports, and nationally with quite a few. Many of our boys have represented our province and our country in sports that our school offers, as well as sports not related to our school sports. On the cultural front, our actors, debaters, and musicians achieved well at our Stedfords. Academically, we continue to expand on achievements. Now, those were not my words. I didn't say that. Those words were spoken by the headmaster at the time when I started here, Mr. Bruce Proben, from his report of that year. But they are as pertinent today as they were 23 years ago. The same words could just as well have been spoken today as they were 23 years ago. Indulge me again as I quote Mr. Proben when he said a year later, Wynberg is secure, and as a world-class school pursuing excellence, our place in the history of South African schooling is firmly placed. There's only one direction that Wynberg's path must follow, and that is upwards. So Cliff, ladies and gentlemen, nothing has changed. We continue to embrace these sentiments. Mr. Richardson and more recently Mr. De Waal have been relentless in the pursuit of these values, and in my experience continue in that upward direction, constantly raising the bar ever higher. Did I say nothing has changed? That's certainly not true. Under the courageous, innovative, and inspirational leadership of Mr. Keith Richardson, Wynberg has transformed significantly. Oh boy, transformation, that word transformation. The one word that evoked many an awkward conversation across the national media recently. When I refer to transformation, I'm not necessarily referring to racial transformation. But before I address that issue, let us look at what very simply the word means. It means changing the model or a marked change in appearance. Now we can always change the model or appearance of, for an example, a motor vehicle without changing or affecting the performance of the car. At Wynberg, we've managed to change and enhance both the model and the performance. Now, I know that I said earlier that the standout moments would be too many to contemplate listing in this address, but it would be remiss of me not to address a few things that have changed or transformed the school over the last 20 years. Keith Richardson recognized the challenge of transformation at a traditional school like Wynberg and managed the process to ensure both excellence and equity with aplomb. He encouraged diversity and navigated the maintenance and enhancement of the good traditions of the school astutely. Being previously oblivious to anything vaguely similar to traditions at schools that I attended or taught at, I am now completely sold on traditions, and we must protect them at all costs because it is those traditions which direct our excellence. Mr. Richardson introduced, or a new prefect system was introduced in around 2001. Learners had more say in the selection or election of those prefects. Unlike in the old days when I first started, when the teachers chose the prefects. The prefect complement was increased from 17 to 27, giving more boys an opportunity to take on more responsibilities. And with that came the opportunity to always improve. When they introduced both a gold badge and silver badge prefects, those who felt that they could have certainly had an opportunity to show what they were worth and achieve the gold badge status. In his quest for excellence and always having the well-being of boys at heart, Keith spearheaded the introduction of the pastoral system in 2003. This vertical system afforded boys the opportunity to have much closer contact with a mentor or tutor. Boys today feel so much more comfortable engaging with staff on a variety of topics, much more than they were able to 20 years ago. It also saw the advent of the buddy system, which in my opinion put paid to the scourge of bullying at the school. The house system was also changed and 4 new houses introduced. Also under Keith's tutelage, we saw the introduction of the Wynberg Way, the Wynberg Pass, and the Wynberg brand, and the grade 8 blazer, which I will not expand on. We all know what the Wynberg Way is, Wynberg Pass, Wynberg brand, and we all know how dear that blazer ceremony has become to us. These innovations are what set us apart from other schools and place us in a league of our own. Keith also introduced the Grade 8 Challenge and the very exciting moment for the boys of ringing the bell on completion of the challenge as a symbol of the entry into the school as boys and brothers. And then the ringing of the bell again at valedictory at the end of the school career as a sign of the exit as men of Wynberg, and another link to the chain. Mr. Duval, unfortunately, I've only had a very short time under his guidance, came in and immediately contributed to the enhancement and transformation of our school, or the enhancement of our school as a world-class school and institute of excellence. After the tragic event of the fire on the Top C corridor, he initiated the project for the new modernized classrooms, which is still a project in progress. Long before the ruckus around fees must fall and roads must fall, he initiated Vision 2021 and drove home the importance of social cohesion and diversity in action as integral components of this vision. Through his foresight and that of the school management team, we initiated the changing of our house names, showing that we are sensitive to those issues which others may find troublesome or offensive. I look forward to coming back to see the completion of another major project that will mark another physical transformation of Wynberg, the innovative and future-defining engineering and design faculty. I have left the topic because one can, it will take a long time to reach any kind of analysis. So I chose not to delve into the current hot topic of racial transformation. If anyone doubts the sincerity and commitment of Wynberg towards transformation, I would simply sit them down with a flask of coffee and copies of the school magazine for the past 20 years and have them browse the photographs, primary evidence of staff groups, class groups, tutor groups, sports teams, prefect groups, bands, choirs, social groups. They do not even have to be able to read, they simply have to look at the pictures. We are also transforming in our attitude towards gender issues and promote a sensitivity towards those with a different sexual orientation to our own. Ladies and gentlemen, we are transforming. Transformation is a progress. We are transforming. Supera Moras.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or whenever it is that you happen to click on this YouTube link. I'm greatly honored to have been invited to address you on such a special day. I've had the privilege of speaking from this podium on many occasions over the years, and it never ceases to feel very special indeed. So thank you, Mr. Duval, for the invitation to address you today. During times of turmoil and tension, you find yourself thinking about the bigger questions. Why am I here? What am I going to be? Will I ever use Pythagoras in real life? Ever, really. And these big questions, who am I? What kind of man am I going to be? Will be sounding louder in the minds of our boys right now. Those struggling with online learning or with the self-discipline that is required, for example. You may well be asking yourselves, what's the point in all of this work? What's the point in this education that I'm trying to Moodle Teams WhatsApp make sense of? What is the point in all of this work? If you are hearing these questions that are being asked from somewhere deep back in your consciousness, at the back of your mind, I'd like to share something with you that may help. I would like to talk about a lady called Margaret Mead. Her story has cropped up again on social media fairly recently, and I think an anecdote of hers is an important one to share. She was born in 1901 and became a world-renowned cultural anthropologist. Anthropology is the study of human behavior, human beings, the societies we create, and the cultures that come forth from them. Now, this story popularly attributed to Margaret Mead. It is said that one day a student asked her, "What is the earliest sign of human civilization?" So think what this could be. Is it the time we started farming rather than hunting? Was that the earliest sign of our civilization? Was it development of the alphabet and the written word? What about cave paintings and drawings of animals and people? Was that the first sign of human civilization? Now, her answer went back way, way before any of these. She said that in her opinion, the earliest sign of human civilization was on a human skeleton from thousands and thousands of years before these events. This skeleton had a healed femur, the thigh bone. And thinking about it, an animal with a broken bone, that's a death sentence. You either starve or you get eaten. That's it. Simple. You can make it through with a broken finger or two or a broken nose or something, but a major bone like a femur, that would be curtains. Now, the fact that this bone had healed on an ancient skeleton meant that that human had been cared for, fed. They'd been protected. It had companions who had showed care. So by Margaret Mead's definition, the very essence of what it means to be civilized is to be of service to others. It is the deepest and most fundamental force that defines our humanity. It's the difference between us being wild and being civilized. Whilst it is so foundational in what it means to be human, It is not just a platform that other traits are built upon. Rather, being of service extends through from that foundation to the highest branch of who we are today and what we will become. It is the core of our humanity. And if we are trying to build a better society, the care of others should be our ultimate objective. So how does this relate to you guys as students? To those of you who are asking, what's the point in all of this work? Well, if you're not bothered about working right now, you're missing out on the opportunity to serve others and to experience true humanity. If you are working purely for yourself so you can get a good job and have a fancy car, well, that's really a bit of a shame actually, because you're really missing out on something. If you are working so that you can raise a family and be a good father, you are expressing care for others. If you are working now so that you can contribute to the battle against global climate change, you are being of service to many, many others. Others amongst you may go on to create works of art that profoundly affect how people view the world. You are helping others. If you do these things, you are expressing what it means to be truly civilized, and you are in touch with the core of what it means to be a good person. That's the point of all this work right now, so that you can make a difference, so that you can make the lives of others better, so that you can truly experience humanity. In closing, it has been an honor to have been part of this incredible community, and from me for the last time, thank you for listening, and Supera Moras.
Mr. Inglis, thank you for giving us a historical perspective today. More importantly, thank you for your 23 years at Weinberg, for your contribution to the History and Afrikaans department, and for managing the service portfolio for the past 6 years. To Mr. Thompson, thank you for delivering the John McNaughton address, but thank you too for your 13 years at Weinberg, for your contribution to the science department, for inspiring so many Weinberg boys, and for leading the academic portfolio with such efficiency and keeping Weinberg ahead of other schools in the academic field. On behalf of Weinberg, I would like to wish Mr. Inglis all the best for his retirement and good luck to Mr. Thompson on his journey teaching in Italy. You will always have a place at Weinberg. Supera Moras.